guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Toni and I'm a homeschooling mom to 4 kids. And we are so close to the end of the year, like so close. We are year-round homeschoolers. So our end of the year usually doesn't fall in line with the time that everybody else's end of the school year is, but that's okay. We're almost done. I'm ready to breathe and just be done and take a big summer break. So we're super excited about that. So I'm finally getting to where I'm going to be talking about what we're choosing for curriculum for next year. Because I know a lot of you have been asking me. I'm trying to finish this year before I can really even think about next year. I've thought about it. I've put a lot of thought into it. I haven't been ready to make decisions quite yet until we are really done or almost done. So I do have one thing that I have decided for, I'm pretty sure, all my kids. When I do the video talking about what my 8th grader is going to be using and my 6th grader, and I split everybody up, that's when I'll tell you for sure what we're using. But I know at least a couple of my kids will be using Christian Light Education for language. And I've had people ask before if I could do a flip through of Christian Light language, and I haven't done it yet. I had it in the basement because we didn't use it this year, and we didn't use it the year before. We had taken a break from it. Well, we're going back, just like a lot of the other stuff with Christian Light, because it's such a solid, awesome curriculum. So I'm going to be just talking a little bit about Christian Light Education's language today, and I'll give you a flip through of 2 different levels that I have. If you guys want to hear about language and you want to have a peek inside of Christian Light Education's language, then stay tuned. So let's talk about Christian Light Education's language. If you do not know anything about Christian Light Education, I'll link a video above here where I've talked about it before. I've talked about their math, I've talked about their reading, and I believe I've talked about their kindergarten, but we did use their kindergarten this year. It's a solid, really awesome Christian curriculum. Now, it's very obvious. I'll show you. This is one of the light units here, and it says God's light and language. So it's very God-centered. You're going to find Bible verses throughout. You're going to find moral stories in like their reading. So it's definitely a very obvious Christian curriculum. I've talked about this before. It is a Mennonite curriculum. So as you can see from just, you know, the way the people are dressed in there, you can tell that it's a Mennonite curriculum. But I will tell you, I am a born-again believer. We are Baptist by, you know, the church that we go to. But I have found nothing in here that goes against what we believe. I found no indoctrination or anything that would worry a Christian, a born-again believer. This curriculum is solid. So the reason we're going back to it. Okay, let me tell you the reason why we left. The reason we stopped using Christian Light Education's language really was because their lessons are a bit longer. To compare 2 different curriculums, Math UC, when we did Math UC, it was like the front and the back page, and that was it. Where Christian Light Education's math is a good 4 pages of packed with math. It is a spiral approach when it comes to math. We're not talking about math today. Get back on track, Toni. The reason that I pulled away from it and decided to try something else this past year and the year before with language was because I was using their math, and I was Christian Light. I was using their math. I was using their reading, and I was using their language the last year. Let's see, it was 3 years ago. And all 3 of those together for me at the time felt like a lot. So, you know, like I said, they're longer lessons. You're talking 3 or 4 pages a piece. So be prepared. It's amazing, wonderful curriculum, but it can be a lot for certain kids that maybe don't have that kind of attention span, or they may just feel like, oh, this is too much. And for us at that time, two things I wanted was maybe just a little bit shorter lessons, and the other thing I was looking for was just some color, which may sound crazy, but this is just black and white. I will give you guys a flip through in a bit, but this is basically just black and white. There's nothing fancy. There's no pictures. There's no art. So we actually switched to the Good and the Beautiful language and used that the last couple years, and we really liked it. It is a lot more colorful. It's got art mixed in, things like that. So that is the reason why we pulled away. Not because I didn't like this, not because it wasn't solid, because I will tell you, this gave my kids such a solid foundation of language arts. And I'm so grateful for that. They know so much. So because we started off with this, we used their kindergarten, we used their 1st grade, we did the learning to read, we've done reading with them. And because of that, my kids learned so much that when they did branch out into a couple of the different things that we used, which was the Good and the Beautiful, and we used IEW's Fix-It Grammar. And both of those dealt with a lot of different things in breaking down language. And my kids already knew so much of it. So this is amazing. I would say start young with Christian Light education. Some of their subjects can be a little harder to jump in. It can be done. You just need to go at the level that your kids are at. They have placement tests online. My kids are taking the placement tests this year because we have been away from Christian Light, and I'm not sure they're going to place exactly in their level because we haven't been using it. So take your placement tests. It is levels. You know, this is Language Arts 4. That does not mean your 4th grader has to use it. It just means if they place in the level 4, that's what they use. So those are some things that really stand out to me with Christian Light. So I'm going to talk about some things that are covered in it. I'm going to show you what's inside. All right, I'm going to get into the books because some of you guys may have just come here for a flip through and you don't want to hear me talk for a long time. So I'm going to flip the camera around and I'm going to show you inside. I have the teacher's manual and I have a light unit just to show you what these look like. And one is the teacher's manual is for Language Arts 3 and the light unit is for Language Arts 4, just to give you an idea. I haven't ordered my curriculum yet, so I don't have what I'm going to have next year, but this is what I have on hand. So let's look inside. So I have here the teacher's book for Language Arts 3 and the workbook, which is called a light unit for Language Arts 4. So just so you know what comes in this, they have 10 light units for each level. And these are really small, skinny little books. And one thing I love about it is how your kids feel so accomplished in feeling like, I'm almost done with the book. And then as soon as they take their test and they finish the book, they get to file this away and get a new book. And they, instead of having one big workbook that they work throughout the year. So I really love that. That is just something that just gives them a sense of accomplishment. So this is the teacher's book. I'm going to go ahead and show you what a light unit looks like, and then we'll go through the teacher's book. So like I said, this is Language Arts 4. So it does say in the beginning, God's Light in Language. This is book 408. So you would have books 401 all the way up to 410. So this is near the end, just to give you an idea of what your kid would be doing near the end of the year. So each light unit starts with a teacher's, like a guide for the student and the teacher to tell you what these different symbols mean that they're going to see throughout the light unit. It's got, it has a little bit of information about scoring and tests and things like that. And then we've got here the table of contents. It has a glossary in the back also, and then there's a little bit more. This is a neat thing that they have because, at least for me, I wasn't super familiar, or I don't remember a whole lot about these pronunciations, and they go through these quite a bit, and sometimes you forget. You're like, what does the upside down ER mean, you know? And it gives you her, you know, it tells you what these things mean. Even this, I had never seen this before in my life. That little NJ kind of that's combined together, and that means bang. I will tell you, you might look at this and be like, oh my goodness, that is so overwhelming. It's not. Your kids will get it. My kids were able to pick up on this because they're learning, and that's why I said I think this is great for when you start them young, if you can. So this is what a typical section looks like. We've got section 1, and it says more adverbs. So they're talking about adverbs here. They always have a teaching box here. Then they've got a practice for what they just taught them. This is independent. It can be independent. If your child needs it explained, then it's easy. You just read this to them. If you want to write it out on the board, you can do it that way. But if your child can work independently, they read this to themselves. They have a little practice section. They always have like a word that gives them a new vocabulary word. And then they have a lot of sentence diagramming, which I know a lot of people are like, why do I need that in my life? I think it's good. I'm glad that my kids know how to do this. It's really not that stressful. When we first started, I was so overwhelmed and apprehensive about using sentence diagramming because I had no idea how to do it, but I learned along with them and it wasn't that big of a deal. So they're going to fill in vocabulary words here. They do a lot with like underline the verb twice, underline the subject once, circle the direct object, breaking down the sentence, which, you know, that's what you're doing up here because you've got your subject and you've got your verb and then you've got the other parts of the sentence. So they do a lot of that that's just in different ways, but it's helping them really understand the parts of a sentence. Then they've got review. This is called We Remember, and this is just all stuff that they've done in previous books. So here we've got underline the verb phrase twice, label the parts of speech and for noun, V for verb, P for pronoun, ADJ for adjective, ADV for adverb, and C for conjunction. And they will learn all these things they will be able to do it. Write the letter to match the words and definitions. So we've got some more vocabulary. Underline the verb twice. There's past, present, and future verb tenses. And then down here, we've got circle the letters that should be capitalized. They do capitalization, punctuation. All that is in one lesson. And then here's the last part, penmanship. You don't have to buy a separate handwriting book. They've got penmanship here. Spelling, you don't have to buy a separate spelling book. So that is one really cool thing that it tells you for penmanship. It tells you, go to page 60 in your notebook, write the sentence for lesson 1. So let's turn to page 60 so you can see what that looks like. And this is their handwriting. So this tells them they're going to be copying this. Now remember, this is level 4, and this is level 4 and later in the year. They're going to be copying this whole thing in their own notebook. And then you go through and you check their handwriting. But earlier on, they would have taught, in some of the earlier books, they teach them how to do these letters and things like that. And now it's just practice. So there's a spelling words. They've got spelling words each week. In the back of the book, they have spelling word bookmarks. So for 408 section 3, this is all their spelling words. So they can actually cut this out and put it in whatever place they are and work on that each day and just keep that with them as a bookmark. So they've got all the spelling words here. We've got them in print on the front, in cursive on the back, which is just another cool thing. My kids tended to lose the bookmarks. So we sometimes, as years went on, decided not to cut these out, but you do whatever works for you. Usually we ended up looking for them. So they've got different ways of doing spelling. They've got all their spelling words here. They're using pronunciation here, but if they don't remember what it means, they go back to that key, the pronunciation key right in the front of the book. It's so nice that everything is combined here. They can go back here to the front and look at, how do I say, what does this mean? What does this pronunciation part mean? And then they can help find the word that goes with it. Write the spelling words that have 3 syllables, write the spelling words that have the I sound, and then write the spelling words in your notebook. So they need a spelling notebook, just like a notebook that they write in. That's one lesson. So it is longer, but if you remember, it's got spelling, it's got penmanship, you've got phonics, you've got a new lesson, you've got we remember, like a review part. So it's really not that big of a deal. And I'll just flip through here so you can see some of these other things, just so you can look. They're all pretty much the same. There's the we remember part. There's diagramming a sentence there. We've got possessive, singular and plural. There's helping verbs. Then we've got penmanship, and then we've got spelling. So let me just flip through here. See, we're talking about commas here. It's just a mix. It's a spiral, and I love that. There's true and false here. And that's the end of that lesson. So here's a different spelling part where they're going to fill in the blanks with a letter of a spelling word, use each word once, and it's obviously got words here in the middle, the way that they lined them up. The Lord is good to all. There you've got your faith mixed in here. Then they have a quiz. The quizzes are in the back of the book. You can choose to do the quiz or not to do the quiz, but you tear those out. It's all stuff they've gone over. It's front and back. That's quiz 1. Then you're going to, I think about lesson 10, you're going to have quiz 2, which is front and back. And then I'll show you where the test is. There is always an extra activity. I don't make my kids do that. You can or you don't have to, but it's just an extra thing to do on the quiz day. Here we've got reading an article, take notes that would help you write a paragraph about the first ice cream cones. They're going to read that. They're going to take notes and write a paragraph. In the middle of the book, here we've got our language arts test. So that's 1, 2, 2.5 pages, 3 pages. That is a test. And then, so we usually just pull that out in the beginning and put it in their test folder so it doesn't get in the way of their lesson. You have a self-check at the end of the book. The self-check is kind of like a pre-test. If my kids have done really well during the whole book, I do not make them take the self-check. If they've messed up or gotten things wrong throughout the book, the things I want them to work on, I'll have them do the self-check just to make sure they're ready for the test. You can grade it or not. We always just took it like a practice test. Here's creative writing. So they've got creative writing day 1, creative writing day 2. So we've got, let's just look at day 1, a how-to paragraph. It's going to explore, choose one of these subjects to write about. So they're going to pick how to make a paper airplane, how to make chocolate milk, how to draw a dog, how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, how to make your bed. Then they do a draft on other paper, write a paragraph giving steps, step-by-step directions on how to do it. Be sure you know how to do it yourself. Explain your steps carefully. Use some of these transition words: first, next, after, then, before, now, finally, and then draw a simple picture or two to explain your directions. They're checking all these boxes off as you go. Well, those they'll check off which one they want to do. This they'll check off to make sure they did everything they need to do, and then give your first draft to your teacher. Then we've got creative writing day 2. So we're still doing a how-to paragraph. Now we're going to edit. Read over your first draft that your mom edited for you. Then you're going to proofread. It gives you all these things to do. Did you put your periods where they need to be? Did you indent? Did you do your capital letters? I love that it's got check boxes here because it's something that they have to visibly check this off to make sure they did it. And I think that's a good reminder. Then final draft. Write your final draft on your paper. Don't skip a line. And then it has you double check some things. Give your final draft to your teacher. And then that's it. And then you've got your light unit test. So there's not a heavy bit of creative writing, but there is some. So if you want, a lot of people I think probably choose to add a writing program, but it does have something in here. This is the glossary, so it's got all the words they're going to need to know the answers to know the definitions of, and I love that that's in the back of the book. They have, this is a nice reference chart because these are things that they might forget or different things that may come up, and it's so nice to have these things in the back of the book. And then I showed you guys the bookmarks and the quizzes, and that's it. So that is what one light unit looks like. So remember, this is level 3. The other one was level 4. So this is the teacher's guide, and it's just one big fat book. The binding, I will tell you, I've used other curriculum where the binding is awful and it falls apart. Theirs is great. I never have trouble with it falling apart. I love it. So we've got the table of contents here. We've got introduction. It tells you about the teacher's guide, all the things, all the components of it, how to do things, what different things mean. So definitely read through that for your first time. It talks about tests and quizzes, all this stuff. And then scoring and grading. It tells you how to do that, how to do your average and things like that. Then we've got Language Arts 301. It's got your overview here of things that are going to be covered in this light unit. And then you've got section 1. It tells you what it's going to be about. We've got our objectives. We've got our board prep. And I sometimes use the teacher's manual and sometimes don't. It totally depends on the kid. There are kids where I have done, like the one I use this with, I used the board prep. We taught these things and I actually wrote in here what I was going to do. There have been kids that have been completely independent. They can take this and do this on their own. And I don't do any of this. I use this for grading. It totally depends on your kid. But there's plenty that you can just read. You don't even have to, you don't have to be an English expert to be able to teach this to your child. Read what this is. And it's really helpful. So this is actually a picture of what their exact light unit is. Let me show you a close-up. What this page 2 in their light unit, this is what it looks like. So it shows you the exact sentence and then what they should have put in there. It's set up exactly the same, how they should have underlined and things like that. So it's so easy to grade, which is awesome. You're not having to search through because you have a picture of what the whole page is. And like I said, they have plenty of teacher help. If this is overwhelming and you're like, I don't know English, I don't know how I'm going to teach it, there's plenty in here to help you learn how to teach it. And then here's lesson 2. So they've got review that you can do, all this stuff. You can do whatever you want, but all this is in the teacher's book. So that's pretty much what it's going to look like. I'm not going to flip through this whole thing, but that's basically what it is. It's got helps for you, and it's got their pages to do, even like crossword puzzles. It's got all the answers in here. So some of you may end up just using this for grading. Some of you may end up using, I mean, it's even got how their handwriting should look when they do their penmanship. Some of you guys might actually use it and use every single thing in here and talk about all this stuff. But some of you might be able to just teach it from the book. Because like I said, these books have a teaching box that either the child can use, or if you want to just open this, you can just read this to your child. So it is laid out. It's very teacher friendly. It's very student friendly. It's very independent. So that is the teacher's book. I'll flip a little bit more. I'm not showing you everything, but that's basically what it looks like. And it's really helpful. Yes, I do think you need it. Even for the lower grades, I think it's helpful just for grading, especially if you have multiple kids, to just go through and boop, 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 you know, check it off. And it's so much easier than having to read all the questions and answer them. So I really do think it's a necessity to have this. See, we're talking about writing a thank you note, very basics, but it covers so much. It really covers a lot. We've got poem here, all kinds of stuff. This is just packed full of really good stuff. In the back of the book are some goodies. So let's talk about what we've got back here. We've got the appendix here. So if you do, this is amazing. If you're in book 300 and your child cannot remember what a consonant digraph is, you can go over here and look and see when they covered it. They covered in book 201, section 11, or 202, section 7. And if you have that previous book, like if you've gone through all the levels, you can pull that out and find it. So it is really helpful in finding, like this is a big book. So if you're not sure where something is, it's really easy to find something that you're looking for. And I've had to use that quite a bit. We've got all our phonics rules here. We've got our vowel rules, rules for syllabication, adding suffixes. So they've got all kinds of rules in the back, alphabetical. There's penmanship. Then we've got our spelling list, which is helpful for when you are giving your spelling test to your child. We've got a scope and sequence here that talks about everything that's covered. There's an index. We have a glossary and study words here too in Mom's teacher book. There's a copy of that page that's in the back of their light unit. They have alternate tests. If your child takes a test in this book and they don't do well, or they don't do as well as you want them to do, they have alternate light unit tests. You photocopy this and you give them the test. So you can go over what they got wrong in their light unit, photocopy this, staple it together, and give it to them. And throw away the bad one or keep the bad one, whatever you want to do. But it's so nice to have that. And then we've got the answers to the alternate light unit tests here. So they've got that for each section, which is awesome. They do not have alternate quizzes, but they have alternate tests. So I really appreciate that. They have that in reading. They have that in math. I love that Christian Light does that. I don't know if all curriculum does that, but I love that they do. We've got our spelling test. So they give you the word, they give you the sentence, and then you say the word again. So this couldn't really get much easier to teach. Spelling tests. Then back here we have, oops. We have reproducible charts here that you can use if your child needs to really focus on capitalization. You can just photocopy this. You can laminate it. We've got here dividing syllables, suffixes, all these things that are just so nice to have. Days of the week, laminate those and put them up on the wall. We've got our alphabet, how to write in cursive, parts of speech. These, I would recommend buying these. They have this in the back of the book, which is great, but you can buy them laminated from this curriculum. I'll show you what that looks like real quick, but I absolutely think that you should buy that because it's such a great reference chart to have when your child is doing their work. Here's a look at what a reference chart looks like. So it's like the same exact thing as this, but it's really nice because it's laminated. So this is the language reference charts for grades 3 and 4. They have these for math. They have these for language. So it's got parts of speech. You've got verbs. You've got all this stuff that they need to know. And if they forget, or if they are trying to remember, how do I use a comma? They can look it up in here, a colon, all these things, apostrophe, quotation marks. This is huge because a lot of kids struggle with diagramming, and it's so nice to It gives you exactly what you do. Even when you get to these complicated sentence diagramming, it's all there. 4 kinds of sentences. We've got words like subject and predicate, simple and compound. All these things are on here. I think this is a must-have. Homophones, homographs, homonyms, synonyms, and antonyms. Teaches you how to write a letter and capitalization. So we keep these clipped on our wall, and they just pull these down. I've got like a clipboard thing that has all of our reference charts, and they just pull it down when they're looking for something and they use it. And it is amazing. So I think you definitely need to buy that. So like I said, this is just such a solid curriculum. If you want your kids to know all areas of language arts, I love that this encompasses so much. You don't have to get a separate spelling curriculum. You don't have to get a separate vocabulary curriculum. I love that it's got Bible verses throughout. You don't have to get a separate phonics curriculum. Really, it's even got writing in there, which is awesome. And if you want to beef it up, then you get something to supplement with it. But it's so great that it has so much, and you really don't have to have all those extra subjects. Everything is in here, which is why the lessons are longer. I'm just really excited to be coming back to this. I'm excited to see where my kids place and to just get back to it. So I've been so impressed by this curriculum. I hope this was helpful for you guys to see inside of this and really see what we love about Christian Lights Language. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments box below. I'd be happy to help you with answer whatever I can. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this. Don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss what's coming soon, which is what are we using next year? I'm really excited to be sharing with you guys what we'll be using, and it'll be coming out, trickling out this month. So just make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any of that. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.